All right, previously on geometry with Mr. Harmless, we did the geometric mean, and the geometric mean, one way to write this is that the geometric mean, in this case, x, the geometric mean is, right, going to go right here and here. The geometric mean of these two numbers is x. So using this idea, we can now use this. It says the altitude is the geometric mean. So the altitude, wherever the altitude is, in this case, it's this segment BD. So BD is the geometric mean of lengths of the two segments, right? So if x is the geometric mean of A and B, the altitude is the geometric mean of the two segments, and it's the segments of the hypotenuse is what it's referring to. So one of the segments of the hypotenuse is this segment here, AD. The other segment would be this segment here, CD. So the altitude, BD, is the geometric mean of the two segments of the hypotenuse, AD, CD. Okay? Now, putting this into practice, you can solve a problem like this, where you have a right triangle with an altitude, right? Notice the x is my altitude, the 8 and the 12 are the two segments of the hypotenuse, so I have all three numbers that I would need for this particular formula. Okay? Now, if you wanted this written as a formula, sometimes I abbreviate the formula this way. I say segment, and this is actually how I memorized it when I was in school. No teacher showed me this. This is in my head, this is what I would say to myself. Segment over altitude equals altitude over segment. And this works if you keep in mind that this segment here and this segment here are the two segments of the hypotenuse. Okay, so segment, and the altitude, on the other hand, is the altitude, just that altitude. It's going to be the same thing. Okay, so if I'm following this pattern here or here, and I look at this, the altitude, so I know I'm going to say, okay, altitude, which is x, equals, right? We've got the two segments of the hypotenuse. The two segments are 8 and 12, so I can put an 8 and a 12. So this is what I can do to solve for x. X times x squared. 8 times 12 is, let's see, what would that be? That'd be 1696. So x would equal the square root of 96. And since it didn't say to round, you could take this, you should simplify it. I'm not going to worry about simplifying right now. That's a different lesson. But this is what you would do, and then you would have to simplify it if possible. Now, let's look at this next one here. It's basically the same problem, right? Because we have an altitude. We have one of the segments. We could figure out the other one because we have this whole hypotenuse. But I'm going to say the altitude, in this case, again, the altitude is x. The altitude equals, right? And we got the two segments of the hypotenuse, 5, and this other one would be 32, right? 37 minus this 5, 32. So then you're going to cross multiply to solve. So I get x squared equals, let's see, 5 times 32, 160, I believe. Square root both sides. You get x equals square root of 160. And once again, you'd have to simplify that at that point, if possible. And this one is definitely possible. Let's do another one here. Notice this time the altitude isn't the x. The 18 is the altitude. But that's not going to change our formula. Altitude goes here and here. Segments of the hypotenuse, x and 15. Doesn't matter which one goes where. Right? So you're going to get this, and I don't want to do 18 times 18 in my head, so let's do 18 times 18 on my calculator. I know you can't see it, but I do have a calculator here. 18 times 18, or 18 squared, is 324. And so here we have 18 times 18, 324. So 18 times 18, 324 equals x times 15 is 15x. Then we would divide both sides by 15. Sounds like class is getting out. Divide both sides by 15. So if I pull up my calculator once again, I just do divided by 15. It comes out to 21.6. which it doesn't say it around, but it did come out exactly at 21.6. If I didn't want to give a decimal, since it doesn't say anything about what to do here, I could have left it as 324 over 15 and then just simplified that, just like these other ones, but this is simplifying a fraction. We could have done that. Okay. This last one here, let me move this calculator out of the way. This last one here, notice in this case, same formula doesn't change. The altitude in this case is 21. It's going to go there, and it's going to go up here. The two segments of the hypotenuse, now one of them is clearly 30. So I put a 30 there. Now the whole hypotenuse is x. This part's 30. So this little part right here, right? This would be the whole hypotenuse, which is x minus 30, right? This side. That's what I would do to find that. So that's what I'm going to write right there. Okay. So this one is going to be, well, a little bit different here. So let's grab my calculator. 21 squared. 21 is 441. Okay, so 21 times 21 is 441 equals, this would be 30, and I have to multiply it times both, so it'd be 30x minus, and then 30 times 30 is 900. Okay, then we're going to have to solve from here to solve for x. Hopefully you know how to solve an equation. I would add 900 to both sides, and then divide by 30, and that's how you get your answer for this. But if it doesn't come out evenly, you can just round it or leave it as a fraction, depending on what your teacher wants. Okay. Hopefully this is a little bit helpful. I know I didn't finish these problems all the way through with the simplifying, but we're focusing on what you'd actually do to set these up right now. If you need help with simplifying, let me know.